Damian Washington, just recently a college football and XFL player, signed as an off-field analyst. He had been wide receiver coach at Southern. But in addition to that, of course, Jay Valai, the defensive backs coach coming in from Alabama, certainly seems to be a top flight addition.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the one thing, Mark, that was very appealing for Oklahoma and Jay Valai was his inroads in Texas. You know, he was at Texas a couple of years ago, part of Tom Herman's staff on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, was let go when when Sark took over. Has some NFL experience as well. Went over to obviously last year went over to Alabama, and I think from my perspective, if you're good enough for Saban, you're good enough for me type of situation. So yeah, I think and the one thing to keep in mind, Mark, is this is something that I think we talked a little bit about last week, but with and this is just on the defensive side of the ball, not even really talking about offensively. And you kind of put Venables into that defensive side, even though obviously he's the head coach. But the previous staff at Oklahoma, that majority of that defensive staff went with Riley to Southern Cal. But the new defensive staff at Oklahoma has 7 national championships that they've won within that group, and the old staff doesn't have any. So I think I think fans will be absolutely thrilled to see who Oklahoma have and knows those guys, but knows them by reputation. But I think on the field, as this this new season starts kicking off a little bit, I think it'll be very interesting to see how quickly they can get those guys up to the standard that Oklahoma needs them to be. But I think with the addition of Todd Bates, obviously on the defensive line, with the addition of Valai on the back end, and then everything that Venables brings on the defensive side, I think the future is bright, certainly on the defensive side of the ball as well.
And while that in no way guarantees a national championship, I think some people tend to credit national championships to the head coach. The head coach, we can count them up. We can all say this person is this many and this person is this many. And there's only, I think, 5 active coaches that have national championships. And then, of course, the players, they were on the field, they won them, and give them credit, but kind of lost in the shuffle, especially if they weren't coordinators. The assistants that contributed to that national championship. And when you put together a staff that has 7 national championships, those guys were integral parts of coaching and developing those national championship teams, and certainly have seen the process and what it takes to win a national championship. And I got to think that knowledge, that experience, and having accomplished it is extremely valuable.
No, you're absolutely right, Mark, and I think it'll be interesting to see the dynamics of the defensive staff, because it's very maybe I don't know the word to say. I don't know that I've seen this a lot, just in terms of how these coordinators have been named. So obviously Ted Roof has been named the defensive coordinator. Brandon Hall, who's a co-defensive coordinator. Todd Bates is a co-defensive coordinator. Jay Valai has been brought on as a co-defensive coordinator as well. So they've got a defensive coordinator in title and Ted Roof, and then they've got 3 co-defensive coordinators. I mean, I think the way that they're probably positioning this is there's these 3 or 4 different guys that have a different area of focus, obviously, in the game planning of the and then probably Ted Roof, or more so Venables, probably has more say in terms of kind of the play calling. But I think that dynamic is going to be really interesting, Mark, to see what that looks like, because you've got 3 or 4 guys who have been defensive coordinators on their own in the past. So I think looking at what that dynamic looks like, and to your point, Mark, Oklahoma's they've had a lot of success other places, and are they able to bring that success over to Oklahoma, which is it's not a rebuild, but I think it's a I don't know the right word to say. It's just just kind of going back to the basics type of situation, and see Is it the talent? Because Oklahoma has been able to bring a lot of talent. They've upgraded the talent on the defensive side of the ball over the last few years under Alex Grinch. So is talent an issue, or was it more so on the coaching side? So I think that, on top of the kind of the increased strength and conditioning program that Jerry Schmidt will bring to Oklahoma will be interesting to see how that translates to the field.